The title of Dr. Lessard's talk today is Red Worn Runners. I'm going to challenge you to say that 5 times fast. Exploring the potential and possibilities within youth, both in and outside of school places. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Lessard. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
I always like hearing that introduction because I want to record it, and finally we're recording, and this is going to be very difficult for me recording. To trap the wind is very hard, and he's got me layered in right here. So I'm a hand talker, and I can record this because I can send those notes to my mom because she just shakes her head, and sometimes, and just when she's reminded of my early days pre-youth work. She was a master youth worker for a long time. So I'm so pleased to be here, and I was saying I really appreciate that introduction. And when I say I'm pleased to be here, I mean it's so timely. You know, I go downstairs and to the underground. I had no idea there was a young woman holding a sign that said underground, and I didn't want to go talk to her because I thought they were going to put me in some kind of city thing like spoken word or something like that. I didn't know what was going on, and then I asked. I was standing there by myself reading the posters, and I asked the facilitators. I said, "What's going on here? Where'd everybody go?" They said they went to the underground. I'm like, "What?" They went to the underground. That's where we're eating. It's called the underground. Oh, okay. Welcome, country mouse. So it's so good, and then I go there, and then downstairs. Not only am I met with nothing but openness from Uzo, who's taken such kind care of me, and we just got to know each other through emails. But I feel loved, and I could say that in a very respectful process. I feel taken care of. Like, so many people have come up to me and just welcomed me in, and that's a feeling. That's an intuitive feeling. But all of a sudden, you show this website, and that website's so important because we can't just base our decisions always on love, right? You know, so I just love that because I spend time. I mean, that's misguided information in terms of your dating life, also. Hey, trust me. So the launch of that website's brilliant. I mean, I spent time in communities all over Canada in the last 3 years, and we have some of the most innovative programs, but one of the things that we're missing is that we never measure our steps. And I think there's multiple ways to measure our steps. So even if we're not good at that, let's collaborate in an interdisciplinary way like this and bring our knowledge together so we can actually build capacity in community, because that's the only way forward. And you could feel it. You know, you could feel it in here. There's a buzz. This is way different. And I love coming here, and I talk about it often, you know, and sometimes you don't feel that, and today I feel it, that I talk about, you know, what Dewey would say, it's a transactional experience. Because what I'm doing, when I share those stories, you get that good energy back, and that could carry you forward in so many different ways. You know, when they talk about self-care, that's what I'm talking about, because the youth and the stories and the people I'm working with, those are sustaining stories for me. So that allows me to kind of keep going. Because right after that, when we do Saturday's work, and then Sunday I'll get home late, and then I'll go back straight to my reserve in our community, where we're working and dealing with suicide right now. So there's lots of things going on, and I need this in more ways than you know. So I thank you for the positive energy and that positive hum. I love hearing that buzz because it tells me that's a good space. That's my measuring piece. So. Start with a story, end with a story, start with a story, end with a story. So when I write, I always reflect on those early days of working with youth, not only in schools, but, you know, in the field, and those have been sustaining stories. So I brought with me a piece from my dissertation, but also from a book I wrote. It's called The Red Worn Runners. I want to open up that way, and then we'll go from here. Reason why I want to read this is because it takes me home every single time. You know, and then I could share some of those stories, and you use the word animating lives. I talk about that all the time, because once you be able to see those images of youth in your mind, then it takes us to different places. I believe that to be true, and that's not just an Indigenous thing. Sometimes 5, sometimes 18, one time 30, but every day through August, the Red Worn Runners have been inspiring me as we shuffle, sprint, and navigate our way down the dusty roads of Enoch Cree Nation, always wearing red t-shirts, that is. It's a beautiful thing to experience, and we always start the local school and the town site, stretching, slowly getting ready for a run. Sometimes I love this daily ritual, other times I loathe it. Depends how my body's feeling. But we stick together through this one day at a time. Girls, boys, young people, and older people like myself make this trek daily throughout August. Sometimes we run 4 kilometers in a day. And we make sure to always jog by the community health center and the band office. It's interesting because now people wave at us when we jog. They used to look at us with mistrust. There's doubt in their glances. They quietly shook their heads as they saw youth move in a different way. I like visiting with the youth about the run and how it feels. They say they love it. Now I'm starting to believe it as they log their kilometers and look towards the poster to see how far they're going, to see how far they've been. Did I tell you? You should see these kids run. It's beautiful. No training, no fancy gyms, just a town site, bumpy dirt roads and truck imprints embedded in the earth, then the sandy gravel of the back roads toward the potato plantation. It's our target turnaround always. Wheat fields and canola fields are on each side. They seem to be our only fans some days, and they seem to wave us on when we move. You see, there's no judgments there. We run and the youth tell me they've never done this before, never seen the fields as I describe them, never seen the beauty of them like I do. I'm hoping and thinking they see it now. I'm hoping they see something different within themselves. We're all in a line, a long red line, staying as close together as possible. And when the red worn runners take off in the distance, it's magical. It takes me home every time we run, home to the gravel roads and the farms of my youth, to the wheat fields and barley fields, and the beautiful sounds and smells that I cannot imagine in the city. The reserve is a beautiful place when I let myself see it this way, shifting what I see by running through it. I think the kids felt it this past week, and as Elders van pulled us over on kilometer 3 on that sandy dirt road, and an older woman shook all the kids' hands out the window. Here we thought we were going to get scolded, but no. She told them to keep it up, to keep running. They're smiling like local celebrities. We all smiled. It's the closest to fame we'll probably ever get. But it's that internal fame that we should be celebrating anyways. I also think the kids felt that when guest runners from the city started to join us on the run, and when we ran past Elder Bob's house and a little red fox was watching us on the driveway, watching the red worn runner snake through the sandy obstacle course. We talk about treaties, families, relationships, and the beauty of creation on the morning jogs. We're simply moving knowledge, as Basso might say. This is the living curriculum they talk about, the familiar curriculum acknowledged. I did not think the kids would continue, but it goes to show you how much I don't know. They showed up every day and even run on their own these days. And now as September rolls in, I heard the other day on the reserve a couple of people were running. They told the boys it was because of seeing them. I guess they are local celebrities after all. They laughed when they told me. I love those kids. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing to watch. Joe with his braid and Michael, they're running straight to the west, running at a pace that I can only consider in my mind. They glide when they move. I wonder what they're thinking of when they run. The red worn runners will continue to be on my mind as the leaves get ready to turn, the farmer swaths down the majesty to the left and the flower in yellow to the right. It's indeed a beautiful thing, one I won't soon forget. I hope we all keep running. Sometimes 5, sometimes 18, one time 30. Well, today it's just me. The red worn runners inspired me to shuffle, sprint, and navigate my way down the dusty roads of Enoch Cree Nation, wearing red t-shirts, that is. Thank you. That's good, hey? Like we're done? Gonna go back to the buffet now. I'm sorry that I'm gonna be looking away, but I have to take a piece here. I always start with this slide. I like putting this slide down there as a reminder of how young people will always hold us accountable. Currently at the University of Regina in Regina, Saskatchewan, 3 years ago, we set up a program around youth development, working with Indigenous youth in North Central Regina. I'm going to talk about that more at the end. But one of the things that we always talk about is that when you work with youth, you make that connection, but to always transfer those experiences, to animate the life, animate the experiences, think about transition and bring that word from a noun to a verb. So this reminds me when I see this little message on my computer when a young person in that program says, Macy, soccer girl, was here. A little grade 3 who's now in grade 7 now, who works in the program with us and now is a mentor for the program 3 years later and when everybody said that she'd quit. Macy Soccer Girl was here as a reminder to me because she holds me accountable and she says, Sean, I know you like speaking, but you better get your ass to the program. I'm like, well, that's aggressive language. That's aggressive language. She goes, what you need to be here, though, you have to stay committed. Sean, you have to stay with it. If I'm coming every single time, I need you to be here too. That's a very important thing to think about when we think about what young people are telling us. That's a grade 3. That is aggressive language. That's what I said. Can you reshape that? Can you reframe that? Can we use a better way of saying that? Just get to the program, Sean. So I always put that up as a reminder, and I told her, I said, I'll be talking about you. I'll be talking to you about you, Macy girl, and she wants to be a soccer player. So that's why, with every single thing we do, we try to connect those experiences to try to animate the life. If you can't smell it, if you can't taste it, if you never walked there, how are we supposed to experience? How are we supposed to talk about experience if we actually don't take different steps to do something different? Macy girl was here. I get asked to do different speeches in different places. And people sometimes say, like, Sean, you're a role model. I said, well, I don't really believe in role models, actually. I said, I think we need to find people within our own communities, that are doing different things. I don't believe in doing this. I said, because that puts us in a bad place, and then that changes my attention. But then, Sean, how did this happen? How did you get in this education piece? I said, well, that's an interesting story. I started off as a youth worker. I did a 2-year diploma in rehabilitation services with a focus on youth. So immediately I was working with youth at the age of 14. I wanted to be I applied for a job when I was 15 for the program director of the Boys and Girls Club. For some reason, they didn't take me. My only practical experience was picking seaweed at the local lake by the farm that I grew up, and they didn't see the connection, but they said, keep trying, keep trying. They couldn't see it, but I said, I was trying. So, I was swinging for the fences a long time ago, but it seemed like a natural place to work with youth because they made me laugh, and it was always positive energy. And I traveled back and forth when they asked me, like, well, how about education? I said, I could tell you stories that come up my mind sometimes late at night, sometimes when I'm writing articles, and, what brought you to this place? And I said, I had this interesting story. I think it's interesting. I'd go back and forth in my early life, toggling between my community and Montreal Lake Cree Nation, by the way, which they say hello to you, back home in our own way. Tineke, thank you for bringing me here, because I'm going to bring these stories back. And Montreal Lake in my early life, that's where I started. And then I transitioned out of that, between foster cares, because my mom struggled for a long time, with addictions. Back and forth, you go to one place, and then you go back home, then you go to another place, and you go back home, and just trying. Then finally, it just wasn't going to work out, and then I got picked up on free agent waivers to a farm family in North Battleford, Saskatchewan. A farm family that said, you know what, after a while, this kid's okay, you could stay a while. And I stayed for a little bit, and then I really took my shoes off, and then I stayed for a long time. And then they said, we'll just keep him here. So they adopted me into that family, into a non-Indigenous family. So when people talk about reconciliation, to me, it has these different terms because I think it's going to take us all kinds of different ways with all kinds of people. It's just not one direction. So I think about images in my mind about, early school beginnings, which are important to think about when we're working with people. What is shaping us all along the way? That's what I'm talking about, to be more direct. I have this image in my mind that popped up in my mind of my mom, my adopted mom. In the kitchen, with garden vegetables, can you imagine scrubbing the potatoes, getting ready for family supper at 5 o'clock always. 7 o'clock in the morning breakfast always. Those rules, I just threw them out as soon as I left at 17. I can't do that anymore, I said. And I remember saying to my mom in grade 6, see, in Saskatchewan, grade 7, 8, and 9 is junior high or middle years. And I remember coming home the one summer and saying, Mom, in grade 7, I'm going to be an academic student. And she just looks at me like this, and keeps on scrubbing potatoes. I said, I'm serious. I'm going to be an academic student. Keeps on scrubbing. She goes, what do you mean? I said, when I go to grade 7, if you want me to compete with these other kids and be like these other kids, you need to start dressing me better. And she goes, I'm not sure how that relates to academic success or whatever you're talking about. And that's the words I was using. And she's like, well, I'm tired, Mom, of the clothes that you keep on buying me. Like I said, I can't wear Velcro shoes all the time in grade 7. It's time to do something different and get rid of this little lunch kit. I need a brown baguette. I said, it's a new story for me. This is going to be a new me. I'm going to be an academic student. She's okay. She goes, okay. I said, you know what? You only buy me clothes from the same 2 places in North Battleford, Saskatchewan, a tiny North Battleford, Saskatchewan. Wolco and Kresge's. It's not going to work anymore. If I'm going to be academic, we need to change the way I'm looking right now. It starts with my feelings right here, how I feel. She says, you know what? We could do that, Sean. She goes, I'll go to the big city. I'm like, okay, that's awesome. The big city, Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. She goes, I've heard about a place there. They have amazing clothes, and I'll get you what you need. I'm like, that's awesome. Now you're listening. See, we need to do this differently. And she goes, yeah, it's a place called Army and Navy. And I'm like, okay, that sounds like a European boutique. I said, I'm in. I said, do it. You need to buy me better clothes. I want Reebok. I want Nike. I want the name brand stuff like Bo Knows. I mean, that's my era. You know, I need it to fit in with these kids. It's very competitive out there. It's a harsh workplace. So she came back. You know, I don't know why she listened to me, but she went to the big city of Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, very close to Regina, Saskatchewan. Another place that I've spent a lot of time in. She comes back with bags full of clothes, and I'm like, okay, this is awesome. This is going to be great. And sure enough, she brought me clothes. And I seen Reebok pants, sweatpants, and it was all graffiti, hot pink, green, orange, and Reebok right down the side of my leg. A nice jacket. Like I said, this is a game changer right now. I'm looking at myself in the mirror, I'm doing spins, and I'm thinking, I'm gonna be an academic student. Things are changing for me in our life. I'm gonna take this family right from the farm, and it's coming together right now. So I get ready we have the school bus, it's a half-an-hour school bus ride, and the school bus picks me up, and I get my best clothes, my best Reebok clothes for that first day. I remember this. This is a true story. I wish my life wasn't such a joke. It is a true story. Get on that bus, and I'm feeling like $1 million. I'm thinking I'm 10 feet tall right now. I almost like kicked the bus door open right there. I'm ready, I'm here. And I get to Battleford Junior High School, and the first person I run into is the girl of my dreams, Cindy Southgate. She looks at me when I get off the bus that first day of school, grade 7. Remember that, how exciting that is? And you're going to junior high, I'm a big kid now. No Velcro shoes anymore, tie-up shoes. And Cindy Southgate says to me, nice pants. I knew it. I said, I'm an academic student. You mean, it's all about the pants. It's about what you're projecting, right? And I'm like, I'm feeling good, looking good, feeling good, right? So, and I'm like, right on. Yeah, they are. Yeah, thank you very much. And I'm like, okay, you mean just pass me from grade 7 to 9? I don't even need, I'll be student president, whatever you need here at school. We are changing the way First Nation youth are going to be conceptualized in this school. It's over. So down the hallway, I run into friends. I'm high-fiving people. Nice pants, Lessard, nice outfit. And it's just like, this is dynamic. Like, this is the best day of my life. I'm actually going to be an academic student. I cannot believe this. And Cindy at lunch says to me again, she goes, Sean, do you like books? I'm like, this girl's asking me out. She wants to go to the library right now. And I'm like, of course. Like, how did you know? Like, I'm all over books, which I really wasn't, But I'm going to tell her, yes, this is true. I love books, and we're going to spend some time in the library. Yeah, whatever you want, I'm in. I'll read a chapter book, whatever it is. Maybe we could set up a book club, a book study, whatever you want. And she goes, yeah, no, you love books. I'm like, yes. I said yes already once, I love books. No, but look at your pants. I'm looking at my pants. She goes, your pants say on the side of them, they say read books. No, it says Reebok. No, it doesn't actually. Reebok is R-E-E-B-O-K. Your pants actually say read books on the side of them. I look at the side of my leg in that graffiti language. My mom tricked me. R-E-A-D-B-O-O-K-S. My pants actually said read books in graffiti language. And I look at Cindy Southgate, I said, I just walk away. Just walk away. And I remember my mom, I still bring the story up to, I said, Mom, for real? Why would you buy me read book pants? She goes, I thought it said, honestly, Reebok, Sean. I had no idea. And she goes, I was in a $4.99 discount bin right there, and I just getting pants. I said, that's why they're in the $4.99 discount bin. So I bring up these stories as healing. No, I don't hate my mom, I love her. I hate Army and Navy. I walk by that place and swear every single time. How could you do that to an older lady? How could you do that to her, hey? That story followed me through grade 7, right through to grade 8, to grade 9, it was in the yearbook, grade 10, grade 12, Lessard, remember the time you were wearing those every hockey dressing room, every activity that I tried to engage in besides sport, read books came up in that small town of Saskatchewan. So people ask me all the time, how did you come to this place, education and youth work? I said I was supposed to be a literacy interventionist a long time ago. And here I am. So we talk about stories. about the things that are shaping you all along the way. In my earliest experiences, you start in some places, it takes you to different places. You never know where you're going to go. I put up A for Aboriginal at the very beginning. I did my 2-year diploma in college, which is a story for another day. Pick a college. My mom just basically said, you're picking a college, and it has to be an hour and a half away from home. You're not staying here anymore. And I ended up going to, over time, I had the awesome opportunity to work in a program that was in a storefront school for young people who are kicked out of every other school in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. I was a teacher assistant there. My only experience before that was selling fruit in Victoria on the side of the road, and the woman who hired me said, I love that. I love what you could do there with fruit. You're hired. And she stayed with me. She had a master's in social work and education. She's a counseling psychologist. She's a person that told me to reframe and look at behaviors all the different ways. She's also said, Sean, you can't stay here anymore after 2 years. There's a common narrative in that too. I said, for what? I said, I love this job. I said, I want to stay here. If I can get to $2,000, I'm going to be good for the rest of my life. My pay stubs, I keep them. I kept them from my very first job, $1,234.62. $1,234.62. I said, if I get up to $2,000, I'm going to be good. Please don't make me go. I love this job. I could do this job for the rest of my life. She had some foresight. The way I'm having kids right now, 2000 would have been very tight times. Very tight times. $2,000, she said, Sean, you can't stay here. Have you ever thought about going to university? People in my community back home on Montreal Lake, we don't do that. And then in my farm family, no one's ever done that. I don't. She goes, Sean, I'm going to take you, I'm going to put you in a class, one class at a time. Have you ever filled out paperwork? Nope, not like this. So this person who gave me a chance to sit with me and say, let's do something different, was my boss. Became a longtime mentor, shifted my life by animating some of the steps along the way. Helped me open up a space that I didn't even believe in myself because I didn't think I could do it. Then all of a sudden, from the Indian Teacher Education Program, I ended up being a tutor there in Saskatchewan, and the people said, the boss, the dean, said, Sean, you need to go. That's another narrative. You need to go. We want you to push yourself and challenge yourself at the University of Alberta in a BA, BEd program, combined degree. You could do this. I said, Edmonton, that's a big city. I cannot do that city. I don't know how to do that. I'm scared about that. I've never done that. You got to get a chance. So I signed up, did those pieces, and first thing I did when I went to Edmonton is I got the phone book. So when I tell stories like this in my university classes right now, people don't even know what the hell I'm talking about. They said, a phone book? You mean the phone, Lessard? I said, I wish I mean the phone. It was actually a big book with paper that you flip open and there's phone numbers. Why would you do that, Lessard? like I designed it, I'm saying, like I designed it. So I opened up A for Aboriginal. Aboriginal Youth and Family. And I said to them, picked up the phone, not the cell phone, an actual phone, and said, do you have an opportunity for a job? My name's Sean Lessard. I'm from Montreal Lake. I'd like to be a youth worker. I need a job to pay for my education. This is the only way forward. Is there any openings? She goes, I can't believe it. There's actually an opening. I said, okay. She goes, you need to take the LRT. I'm like, and come down for an interview tomorrow. I will be there. I will be there 45 minutes early. Just that I use those words that I learned in those books, those self-help books, eh? Just using that positive language. I will be there 45 minutes. Very assertive, hey? She said, she goes like, the LRT. I'm like, what the hell is the LRT? So I phone my friend. I go, what is the LRT? He goes, that's a subway, man. He goes, that's like a train. That's a train, Sean. He goes, you need to go this way. You need to go that way. I said, I've never been on a train before in my life. Okay, I'll map it out for you. So he came over, gave me a map. You're going to be in the 5th stop. You got to take a bus to it. And then I'm like, so I got this. I got a little map in my hand. But he said, just blend in when you're on that bus. You don't want people to think that you're not from here. I'm like, okay, I could do that. So I took my bus, got my train. I'm thinking, okay, it's 5 stops. I'm watching 1 stop. It's good. Just hanging out, trying to I'm wearing my best shirt, my best white shirt. I didn't say white in that way. I'm just saying it was my only dress shirt, actually. A tie, some nice pants, my only pair of nice pants. And I'm going to be there early. 45 minutes, like I said. 2nd stop, 3rd stop. I know it's the 5th stop. 5th stop comes, and I start pushing on the door. Then I try to pry open the door. Then I slap the door again, and I kick the door. And then it goes like this, ding, dong. It keeps on going. That's my stop. The only good thing about the train is that you can ride it for a long time. It's eventually going to come back the other way at some point. But I didn't know that you're supposed to press a button to actually open the door. I was watching, but I wasn't watching. So I finally made my way with the good help of people. I rode that train all day long and then all the way back to my stop. I get off that train, and we're running hot for time, kind of like this speech right now. And I just start flying, and you can imagine this 6'1" native man just sprinting in a suit down the city with a briefcase. Eh? I think people in the inner city there in our community, they had some questions. I know that. I'm surprised I wasn't pulled over. They're like, this isn't right. So I get there to this place, and I'm just sweating. Like my shirt's see-through, white, and my thing. This woman looks at me. Are you kidding me? She says. Are you kidding me? And I'm like, I'm not kidding you. She goes, we believe in this organization, Aboriginal Youth and Family, that you be on time. I appreciate that. That's the values that we're putting forward here. Why should I even interview? We don't do this. You're 20 minutes late to this interview. I don't think that you're not even going to do an interview. Give me one good reason why. I said, well, I lied to you. I know you lied to me, she's saying to me. She's just giving it to me. Hey, you did lie to me. You said you'd be here 45 minutes early. I was very impressed by that. I'm like, no, I lied to you too. I said, you told me, do you know what the LRT is? And I said, yeah, straight up, yeah. I didn't want to lie to you. I wanted to fit in. And she's like, so what did you do? I didn't know how to press the button, so I just kept on riding the train, and then I rode it back. She goes, you're not helping your cause. Cognitively, why should I even hire you if you don't even know how to press the button? She's breaking my heart already, and she's dressing me down before the interview's even over. And she goes, this story is so ridiculous. And look at you right now. Like, I'm just sweating and my hair is all over the place. She goes, you possibly cannot be lying, because I've never heard anything like this before in my life. I said, I'm not lying. Like I said, I did not know you're supposed to press that button. And she goes, okay, I'm going to give you one shot here. One shot. You know, I went through the interview process. I splashed some water on my face, and I said, you know, I want this job. This pays my education. I could do this. 5 years later, I stayed with that job every single day. Ran a program Monday through Friday. They called me Gym Knight there. That's what they ended up calling me, which is a ridiculous name. I worked in the gym after school, setting up a tutoring program with kids from diverse backgrounds in the inner city, where we tutored and then we played what they wanted to play. We created a space in a community to live differently together. We ate the Mustard Seed Church 5 days a week, place for the homeless in Edmonton. But we sat always with people because that was our community. I always say those young people, they paid my education. They created a space for me. I see them all the time. I'm in relation with them, with over 80% of them. That was many, many years ago. My name's Gym Knight. That's what they call me still when they see me. I'm like, why do you guys call me Gym Knight? Because you're at the gym? You mean you open the gym for us and it's at night? They wanted to give me a jacket that said Gym Knight on it. I'm like, oh, no, I'm good. I'm good. But what I'm talking about is the early experiences that are shaping influences, right? And those stay with me because those are the best lessons that I learned all along the way. They taught me about the borderlands, to try to find a space in wherever we are, and we can learn differently, and we can live differently, we can understand differently. Because I understood later on as a teacher that within the institution that I could only hear certain stories, that only certain stories were animated. But it was in those other spaces, I'd heard the other stories, and I have to find somewhere to cross in between. So that idea of the borderlands is with me all along the way. And those young people taught me that a long time ago. To listen differently, to pay attention differently, and not just to listen because young people know when we're not listening. It's how we respond to what's actually going on. What Macy girl was saying to me in terms of commitment, that if you're going to say you're going to be there, you better be there, because they're in it for the long haul. It's not a short-term piece. It's not a fly-in, fly-out kind of opportunity, because you're creating a different type of community. You're creating a different narrative, a forward-looking story, so to speak. I got my first formal job after all those jobs. I think those were the best jobs. I graduated from the school, from the university in an education degree, and I promptly got picked up for an opportunity to work in a school. How do you like the name of this school? Institutional Services. That was my first job. I'm like, that's hopeful. And there was no job, so I said, you know what I'll be? I'll be a teacher assistant. I just wanted a job to work with kids again. So I'm working as a teacher assistant / youth worker in institutional services in a place where in Edmonton Public, if you get kicked out of every place, that's where you go. You see a thread here? And I'm working there in the school, and then the principal taps me on the shoulder. He goes, Lessard, do you have an education degree? Yes, I do, sir. Why are you like a teacher assistant? I said, because I wanted a job and I like working with kids. I'm learning from this teacher. What does it matter? We need a teacher. I said, okay. I said, so do I have to do an application? No, you're hired. You start next week. You start Monday. Okay, right on. That's great. You know, what am I going to be teaching? Kindergarten. Well, I don't do kindergarten. No. I'm secondary trained. I want nothing to do with kindergarten. And he's like, no. And I said, what's the class going to be? And he said, there's going to be two students in it. 2? I could do that. So at home, I'm practicing reading books by myself like people do. I'm watching all the elementary shows. I could do this. I'm a kindergarten teacher. Those 2 kindergarten kids, they took me up one side and down the other for half a year. That 2 was like a mighty 2. It felt like 22. It felt like 32, 42, 52 some days. I mean, I learned all the things in my handbook about teaching and you know, proximity. You know, you have to do this. You have to try to understand. You mean my first day with a young man, I walk up to him and I get down on my knees. So I'm not so big. I mean, they tell you not to be big, be small, and you know, get on their level. And I'm like, I'm whispering to him basically, would you like to do a little reading or some math? Which is just creepy now when I think about it. This kid punched me so hard across the face. He Batisted me right in the face, that little kid, and gave me a little bloody nose. First day with him. And he looks at me, nothing. So I walk the office, I tell the principal, I'm like, he goes, what happened? I go, that kid decked me. He goes, how did that happen? I'd whisper in his ear, if you want to read math or do math or reading. He goes, did you read the IPP, the individual program plan I put on your desk? I said, no. I learned in university that you don't read those things. You know, you can make assumptions about people. It says right in there in the first page, don't talk close to him. He doesn't like close talkers. And he goes, this kid's totally within his right to punch you. I would have punched you too. He said, that's your mentorship program? He goes, yeah. He goes, don't do it again. Thank you, boss. I'll go back to work now. So early experiences, shaping influences along the way. I get to Jasper Place High School. That next year, get recruited to run a program and said, all the kids that get kicked out of the school, Sean, you have to develop a program that will help sustain them. They didn't use that word, sustain. Keep them at school. Too many dropouts. Create something, Sean. So that was my job. This job, I was so happy to get this job at Jasper Place High School. 2,600 students on the west side of Edmonton. I thought it was going to be the best job ever because it's right beside West Edmonton Mall. And I'm thinking every single day I can go to the cafeteria. I've never seen something like West Edmonton Mall. I can go skating at lunch, whatever I want to do. I'll be on the roller coaster between periods. What I found is most of my class, I could have just held the class at West Edmonton Mall. 95% of my class was at West Edmonton Mall for the entire day. So those early pieces in that school of 2,600 students, of 250 First Nation Métis Inuit students in that school, 7,000 First Nation Métis Inuit students across that district. And they said, Sean, you have to try to find a way to connect with these kids. And all I could tell you is the stories that I learned from my youth work experience, from working in community, were the only ways that I could try to find spaces within the institution. Because the institution closed off every space that I could, and if I relied on that, the time created distance between us. The subject matter created distance between us. So my whole goal in every single one of those schools I've worked with since then is to try to create conversational space in schools within the institution, because I know the institution's writing over kids all the time. And that's become what I've done in every single place that I work, is to try to disrupt the space, to try to find a way forward, because I know so many people are silenced, including educators, including social workers, including youth workers. There's something about the institution that works on us. It's in our bones. We are institutionalized beings in some ways. So how do you undo that? That's things we continue to ask. How do we take care of ourselves and start to understand what's actually happening to us. I can actually even tell you when fish and chips are on sale at the school right now. I know it. There's a little inner alarm that goes off in my body because I knew the cafeteria schedule inside out for 7 years. What I knew in that place was to rely on what I'd learned in the community. Is that in that place there was 250 First Nation, Métis, Inuit students, and they said, Sean, you know what you need to do? Is you're going to engage with them. 250 First Nation, Métis, and we have best practice. Best practice is at the beginning of school in September, you're going to get on the intercom and you're going to call them down all at one time just like this and say, how are you? And I'm talking to this person on the phone from the district, and I said, that's your best practice? I said, why would they want to talk to me? And do you remember what it's like to be in school? You're making a huge assumption. Well, can't you do something cultural with them? I don't dance that way. I don't drum that way. I said, the other way that you should think about is that maybe I should have a conversation with their family or their mom and dad before we just actually haul kids down in our own checkbox system way. So what are you going to plan on doing? This is our best practice, Sean. I said, you know what I'll do? Is I'll talk to family or the mom and dad or grandma and grandpa or whoever they're living with. I'm going to have a cup of green tea with every single student by the end of October. That became my practice, and we called it 250 conversations. 250 different stories animating the lives of young people, and they take their own pictures. They took their pictures so it would be a memory marker in my mind. And what I was really doing back then, before I knew what I was doing, is that I wrote down every single thing, and those are my field notes. All these young people gave me permission to use this slide, and I say that in particular about this one because they've just given me permission to use this slide. Because Jaron, who I worked with very closely, and Michael, who I work with very closely, Jaron said, Lessard, I want you to use that slide now. I'm like, what changed, Jaron? You know, I didn't like you putting in culinary arts. I love culinary arts, Sean. He goes, but I want to tell you something. I'm like, okay, go ahead. This is a recent conversation. Do you know that girls like guys who cook? And I'm like, okay, go on. He goes, well, I want you to go across Canada. I want you to tell young people that all across Canada, every place you go, you tell them that. That's what I want from me. I said, please use your knowledge for good, not for bad. I'm not telling them. But what we did is we asked the question, always ask the question about what sustains you, not what retains you. What sustains you, not what retains you. Michael, family, friends, education, culinary arts, I'm college bound. What are your words for the future? We don't fit the stereotypes. Michael, when I look at Michael's picture, I smile all the time because he said, you know what he said to me the last day when he graduated? He goes, hey, old man. I'm like, oh, yes, that's not the right way to connect with me. Old man, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to school. He goes, I'm going to take your job when I'm finished. That makes me happy. Guess what? At the University of Alberta, Michael Swampy's in the last semester of a social studies degree, and he's a college scholarship winner, academic scholarship winner. He's taken my job in a short few months. And I'm not saying that because that's because of me. That's all him. But what I'm saying is that if you create a space with kids within institutions, you mean different stories could be told, different stories could be recognized. I'm just going to put that up there. I recognize we're hot for time. I'll just let that linger. Both these young people in university right now, telling different stories. I don't always think it's about university. It's about whatever pathway that works. So we have to create spaces. I think what we do really bad in schools is that we have guidance counselors that say the singular pathway is to go to university. I think that there's many ways. So we have to create spaces to have conversations with kids, both in and outside of schools. Sometimes when you have conversations, things can change. Things can change rapidly. 7, 8 years ago, through those conversations, those individual 250 conversations, the young people said, we want to get together, Sean. We want to tell the principal in this school what we love about this school and what we hate. So I talked to the principal and said, they want to tell you what they love and what they hate. She goes, we have the best school, though. She goes, aren't they feeling good here? I said, you know what you really should do? You should ask them, not me. 7 years ago, she set up a lunch for them in the place that none of us get to sit, in the most fancy place in the boardrooms, and ordered something simple like pasta, a very simple meal. And the youth told her one thing they loved and one thing that they loathed about the school. That became the start of something called Leading Spirits. A bunch of young people that want to do something different, that want to live differently, and that want to tell a different story in the school. They wrote a manifesto 7 years ago, and now that's operated now in terms of 1 school, 2 schools, 3 schools, now in 9 different high schools. In fact, these young people have been to Finland and spent time with Posse Solberg, around the Finnish Alberta partnership. Finland's notorious for some of the education innovations. But the thing I love about this, they advise the Gay Straight Alliance in this big, gigantic school in terms of how to create a different space in school. Indigenous youth could do it if we create the space for them. And when I say hear their voice, I don't say hear their voice, I'm saying not talking at all. She said that principal said, she goes, Sean, I cried and cried and cried after what I thought was a great school. I thought I was doing such a good job. She goes, those kids, they're straight shooters. That practice of what she did, she does it once a month still. That's leadership. That's not Sean Lessard. That's kids being able to have access to different kinds of opportunities. I'll bring you a little snow. When I'm talking to young people, I talk about mapping the landscape all the time. What does it mean, where you're from and where you're from? Because where you're from is one thing, but where you're from, I want to know the stories of the people who are around you. I want to know what that means. I want to know that when I say Montreal Lake Cree Nation, that's in Treaty 6 territory in Saskatchewan, northern Saskatchewan, we're Woodland Cree, that there's certain protocols and rhythms and there's a way that we live within that community. That might be that's way different than the context here. Where you're from. It's really about locating oneself. That's in northern Saskatchewan. And when I'm saying that, I'm locating myself because when I'm doing work as a researcher, I'm on the constant negotiation, trying to locate, trying to figure out where I am, trying to figure out where I am right now in this place right now. What does it mean? What are the stories that live here? That counts when we're thinking about research because we have to understand the context of each place, the geography. That's my timeout room, in Battleford, Saskatchewan, North Battleford on the farm. I think my dad was a master interventionist way long time ago. He filled this barn up in the second story. This is the farm place in my early stories. He filled it up with sports equipment. He said, just throw a ball against the wall. He goes, shoot, play basketball, just do whatever. You got to stay here. You can't be going out on the weekends with kids. He was saying, just play. And I put this up fondly because it brings up memories of experiences, but I'm talking about when I'm working with kids, I always want to know about the places that are sustaining. What are those places? What does that look like? And we know that many young people don't have places like that. There's no barns in their life. So then what might that look like? That place might become a person, might become an activity. In those places, the personal social context is so important to think with. The people, when you ask kids, when you map it out, when you're mapping the landscape with them. This sign is particularly important to me. Such a colonial sign. Hey, look at beautiful Saskatchewan, hey, just flat Lessard Road. That's my adopted name. This sign always brings a tear. I bring Kleenex in here when I see this sign because I'm never going to see this sign again. At University of Regina, I was teaching a lecture hall bigger than this. And I was showing the sign, and there's a young person in the crowd just like twitching like this, just like moving. I'm like, I might be triggering this person. I better be careful. Then all of a sudden, a hand shot up in the back and said, Dr. Lessard, Dr. Lessard. I'm like, oh my goodness, I am triggering her. She goes, I'm Lessard. I'm like, oh. I said, can we talk about this after? Like I'm yelling this. Can we add the break? Can we just have a little conversation? No, there's something I got to tell you. I'm not a confession booth. Like, I don't know what you want. Like, can we please talk about this later? She goes, I am a Lessard, and I'm from North Battleford. I'm like, oh my God, my dad has a love child. Like, this is like, please, can we talk about this later? I don't want Jerry Springer episode. Like, this is not what I need right now in my life. I don't even have tenure yet. This is going to be bad for rateyourprofessor.com or whatever it is. I'm tanking right now. And she goes, no, there's something I got to tell you, Lessard. I'm from North Battleford. We're not related. I'm like, okay, can we please talk about this after? Like, everybody's just looking at us, and we're going back and forth in this dialogue, and she's like, Lessard, I feel so bad. I'm like, okay, this is just awkward right now. I feel so bad. You know that sign? You're telling these stories? Well, in North Battleford on grad night, me and my friends, we went to that sign. We chopped it down with an axe. It's in my bedroom right now. So I'm devastated when I see this sign because it's never going to be there again. And she goes, do you want to see it? I have it on IG and Facebook. Come up here and take a look. I said, I don't want to see it. She goes, and I said, the only thing I'm concerned, that's such a violent act. Why an axe? We're going camping. So Lessard wrote, The Secret of Your Name, know those stories, those experiences. And we laugh and we laugh and we laugh. I said, just take care of that sign. But in the other part of my story, this is how we do it on the res. Kingfisher Road, that sign ain't made of wood, that's metal. I said, try chopping that down. That's what I told her, eh? And my name in these other places is a Kingfisher, and I come from a place of stories with people that are in politics, that were leaders before politics, and how we think about them in a contemporary way. I have elders in my family. Those are rich stories that are all around me. Kingfisher is also my name. I'm also a Sati, which with strong roots with that side of my family. And one of the things I'm always reminding youth is I said, go back, and if we remember our name, then that's another story. And if we don't know the stories of our name, there's a problem there. There's a gap. But that's okay, because now I at least know where we're going in terms of identity. So what's the story of your name? And that's not just an Indigenous thing. My friend reminds me of this all the time. This is Montreal Lake. I'm the worst. The premier of Saskatchewan hates me because I'm selling Saskatchewan. Everyone's just a snowy, straight, flatlands, barren land. The geography in all our stories. And that counts in a city too, my friends. Because sometimes our stories are this way. And sometimes there's a blurring in between when we think about what that knowledge, what that looks like in different places. And I just put this picture up because I think it's funny. It actually goes against every single thing that I'm talking about. No straight lines. I'm talking about multiple pathways. It was just a nice slide, I thought. Which brings me to the more recent present, 3 years ago, I was doing a speech at Calgary, and someone said to me, if I give you $40,000, Sean, will you set up a program for kids in Regina? I'm like, yeah, sure. She goes, I'm serious. If I give you $40,000, will you set up a program for kids in Regina, Saskatchewan? So even when I got my first job at the University of Regina, a lot of people said, Sean, you don't have to work with kids anymore. You're a professor now. I said, you know what? I'm going to work with young people more and more and more than ever now, because this is the kind of story that is sustaining to me. And if I quit doing that, then I'm going to lose myself. So Growing Young Movers Youth Development started in City Regina 3 years ago in north central Regina, in a neighborhood that Maclean's magazine cited as the most dangerous neighborhood in Canada. We don't talk that way because we're writing over kids' stories as soon as we start talking about neighborhoods in a deficit way like that, because now I can't see. Now there's no animation in lives. We are not North Central. We are from Kitchener School. And this is part of our story together in the Growing Young Movers Youth Development Program. Grade 3s run the program. Every Wednesday they come after school, and we start outside of school because that's really important to pay attention to. We're not working in the institution, we're working outside the institution. That shapes your research differently. There's good and bad in both, but it's something to pay particular attention to. Where does the research start? Where does the program start? Does it start in community, or does it start within an institution? Because if it starts within an institution, then it's layered over with some institutional language already. So as soon as we understand that, then we can move in the different ways. But if we are not awake to that, then we can sometimes get ourselves into trouble. That's what's happened for me. Every single thing we do, we start in a gymnasium. In a place where the gym, some of the most beautiful things can happen in a gym, but some of the most violent things can happen in a gym. Winners and losers. We don't play sports at all. We're movement and free play. Because the last thing we're going to do is go to a place where young people have had oppression and violence in their lives, is start throwing dodgeballs at each other. We play together in a different way. And what the kids say all the time is that when new kids come, we don't do dodgeball here. That's the first thing they say. That's their rules, right? Because we want to play differently. There's Macy Girl up on the top. Growing Young Movers. Just playing. And we always do self-evaluation after every session. The junior high and youth mentors do self-evaluation on iPads. We have 10 iPads The kids interview each other about their experience. We have set questions. We always do self-assessment, guided self-assessment, not just freelancing. Because we want to know about what are we doing, how are we doing today? That's our major question. That's our through line question for every single activity that we do. How are we doing today? And the kids develop the questions for how they're doing today. Kids can do it if you create the space. How are we doing? How are we doing was a question that they gave on the first day when we got to enjoy our first experience outside the gymnasium. So what we do is the kids pick 10 activities that they want to do in the city, no matter what they want, just a different experience, tobogganing, whatever, laser tag, it's their ideas. But we start in the gym and work on certain pieces on building, ourselves together, and then we're trying to transfer that to the outside community. The bus driver came to pick us up. Imagine this picture, 35 grade 3 First Nation students in North Central Regina, a whole bunch of high school First Nation students, myself, and a couple other friends. And this bus driver, a middle-aged woman, non-Indigenous, said, whoa, 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 I'm just a sub. I'm just wondering the questions that she had in her mind about what kind of story she was putting on us as soon as we met that bus. And you know what one of the kids did? They gave her assessment, how are we doing today? It's a 5-point questionnaire with a little piece. And the kids, a little grade 3 said, can you evaluate us at the end of our bus ride? She goes, what? No one has ever asked me that. Well, a bus driver is a marginalized person too, so we understood that. So every activity we do, we give them the how we do an assessment. Whether we're in laser tag, she's our bus driver full on. For 3 years, she's been riding the bus with us now. She took the kids on because they made the rules about how they want to live on that bus, not us. And one of the things that they said is that you should show positive manners. But that looks different like for kids, right? That's their words, not mine. She was blown away. How are we doing today? We started off small, and it keeps on growing and growing. I have a list of high school kids across Regina and Saskatchewan that want to participate as paid youth mentors. We pay them $25 an hour from the minute that they leave school. People said they wouldn't stick. The school said they wouldn't stick. They said we didn't know any of these stories about these kids because none of the kids that we hired, none of them will ever make a sports team. Because that's some of the structural pieces. That's all right. We're not playing sports. We're playing. In 3 years, they have a 98% attendance rate. They missed one activity because someone passed away in their family. What we didn't know when we first hired these young people, that 4 or 5 of them are in foster care. Those stories started to animate later on in my life, so it makes it even more particular for me, even more special for me in a different way. I make assumptions all the time. I thought the kids, we don't do honorariums at all. No cash honorariums. You get a bank account. We're going to do this. We'll help you. You mean like, we're going to figure that out? So how do you animate a life? By taking people with you to different places, right? They stay with us. They're unbelievable young people. 2 of them now are in university. The other ones are in grade 11. They already have plans way beyond. One wants to be an undertaker. I'm like, that's sick. I said, I didn't bring that up. She goes, I know, but Sean, that's made for money, man. People keep on dying. So these kids are thinking in different ways. You know what's beautiful? You think that kids are just going to spend their money on like read book pants and all kinds of fancy clothes? They saved their money for a whole year to buy a car, the kids in foster care, because they wanted to learn to get their driver's license. And now they want us to teach them how to drive, right? I'm like, now we're going to another level, man. I don't know if my insurance covers that. And we travel to different places, the Nisga'a Nation. I put that Nisga'a Nation piece up because they invite us in for a week-long piece. I said, I'm never going to do work in a community if you don't build capacity. All the young people who we work with in a week, they're the youth workers now in their own community. I don't believe in drop-ins. Just playing. Intergenerational model. The best teachers are the older ones teaching the young ones. It's not the Sean Lessard story. Because the behavior dissipates, as we know, because the older ones are empowered in a way, and the young ones see the older ones in a different light. In schools, we do a horrible job of connecting. Natural. They're natural. Because if we think about knowledge, they have stories from their homes of taking care of their kids a long time ago, their cousins, families, and we always eat. And sometimes I make assumptions when I think kids have all throwing Frisbees, and I go to Gitsigukla to the mountains, and these kids have never seen a Frisbee before. So in the middle of winter, what they want to do is they just want to play Frisbee. And we like to celebrate. I know a certificate is a certificate, but you have to win in the micro wins. And then sometimes we have other adventures too. And to always go back home with stories, to remember who got you there, to remember what sustains you. Because sometimes 5, sometimes 18, one time 30. Today it's just me. The red worn runners have inspired me as I shuffle and sprint and navigate my way down the dusty roads of Enoch Cree Nation, wearing red t-shirts always. Thank you.